In a school determined to break them, two outsiders found strength in each other and sparked a revolution. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The hallways of Ridgeway High School buzzed with the usual Monday morning chaos. Students clustered around lockers, comparing weekend stories and scrambling to finish last-minute homework. Among the familiar faces, two newcomers stood out: Zara Johnson and Elijah Washington. Zara stood at the administration office counter, clutching her transfer papers. She was the new girl from Chicago, tall with deep brown skin and eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. Her braids were pulled back in a neat ponytail, and she wore a simple blue sweater and jeans. Nothing flashy, nothing that should have made her a target. But in the unwritten rules of high school hierarchy, being new was crime enough. "Your homeroom is 203, Ms. Johnson," said Mrs. Perkins, the office secretary, sliding a schedule across the counter. "And here's a map of the school. Your locker number and combination are at the top of your schedule." "Thank you," Zara said quietly, folding the papers and tucking them into her pocket. On the other side of the school, Elijah Washington navigated the crowded hallway alone. He'd moved to town just 2 weeks ago when his mother got a job at the local hospital. 6'1" with broad shoulders and dark skin, Elijah kept his head down as he passed groups of students who fell silent, then erupted in whispers after he walked by. He'd been through this before: the stares, the comments, the clear message that he was an outsider. Zara found her locker and struggled with the combination, aware of the stares from a group of girls nearby. They were led by Madison Wells, Ridgeway High's unofficial queen bee, whose perfectly highlighted blonde hair framed a face currently twisted in a smirk. "Is the new girl having trouble?" Madison called out, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Maybe she's not used to actual locks where she comes from." The group snickered. Zara ignored them, finally getting her locker open. "I'm talking to you," Madison said, moving closer. "What's your name again? Zola? Zaina?" "It's Zara," she replied, not making eye contact. "Excuse me, I need to get to class." Madison stepped directly in her path. "Well, Zara, let me tell you how things work around here. New kids need to understand their place. A tall boy with a letterman." Jacket slung his arm around Madison's shoulders. "Come on, Mads. Leave the charity case alone. We're gonna be late." Zara's cheeks burned as laughter followed her down the hallway. Meanwhile, Elijah sat at the back of his AP physics class, keeping to himself. When the teacher announced lab partners, a collective groan went through the room as students realized someone would have to work with the new black kid. "I'll work with him," said a voice from the front. A girl with glasses and a NASA t-shirt turned to face Elijah. "I'm Jessica, by the way." "Elijah," he said quietly, grateful but wary. "Watch out, Jess," whispered a boy loudly enough for everyone to hear. "I hear those guys from his neighborhood are dangerous." The teacher cleared her throat. "That's enough. Brandon, open your textbooks to page 78. The cafeteria was a battleground of cliques and territories. Zara found an empty table in the corner and unpacked her lunch. She was halfway through her sandwich when Madison and her crew arrived, surrounding her table. "This is our spot," Madison declared, placing her hands on the table and leaning forward. "Has been for 2 years." Zara looked around at the nearly empty table. "There's plenty of room for everyone." "You're not understanding me," Madison said, her voice dangerously sweet. "You don't belong here." With a quick motion, she knocked Zara's water bottle over, sending water cascading across the table and onto Zara's lap. The girls erupted in laughter as Zara jumped up, her jeans soaked. "Oops," Madison said with mock concern. "Looks like someone had an accident." Tears stung Zara's eyes as she gathered her things, the cafeteria spinning with faces, some laughing, some looking away in embarrassment, none stepping forward to help. Across the cafeteria, Elijah witnessed the scene. He'd been sitting alone as usual when he saw Madison's deliberate move. He watched as Zara hurried out, head down, shoulders hunched against the laughter. Something in him snapped, a recognition of shared pain, of battles fought alone. Without thinking, he stood up and followed her out. "Hey, wait up!" Elijah called, jogging to catch up with Zara in the empty hallway. She turned, hastily wiping her eyes. "What? Come to get a closer look at the freak show?" "No," Elijah said, catching his breath. I just wanted to make sure you were okay. What Madison did was wrong." Zara studied him skeptically. "Why do you care?" "Because I know what it's like," he said simply. "I'm Elijah, been here 2 weeks, and it's been pretty much the same for me." A moment of understanding passed between them, two outsiders recognizing each other's scars. "I'm Zara," she finally said, "and I'm fine. It's just water." "It's never just water," Elijah replied. "It's about making you feel small, making you feel like you don't belong." Zara's defensive posture softened slightly. "You sound like you've had some experience." "More than I'd like," he admitted. "My last school wasn't much different. Some people see your skin color and decide they know everything about you." "And what do they think they know about you?" Zara asked. Elijah's smile was bitter. "That I'm dangerous, that I'm stupid, or only got into AP classes because of some quota, that I'm from the hood, even though I grew up in the suburbs. The joys of being black in America," Zara said with a sardonic laugh. "My dad gave me the usual speech this morning. Keep your head down, don't make waves." "Does that ever work?" Elijah asked. "Never has for me," Zara admitted. The next few days established a pattern. Madison and her friends escalated their torment of Zara accidentally, bumping into her in the hallway, making loud comments about her clothes, her hair, her accent. Meanwhile, Brandon and his friends from the baseball team took every opportunity to make racist jokes around Elijah, asking if he knew how to read or if he was on scholarship. Zara and Elijah found themselves gravitating toward each other, sitting together at lunch, walking to shared classes, finding strength in their growing friendship. On Thursday afternoon, things came to a head. Zara was at her locker when Madison approached with her usual entourage. "Still here, charity case? I thought you'd have gotten the message by now." Zara took a deep breath. "I'm not going anywhere, Madison." "We'll see about that," Madison sneered, reaching out to push Zara's books from her hands. This time, Zara was ready. She caught Madison's wrist mid-motion. "Don't," she said firmly. Surprise flashed across Madison's face, quickly replaced by anger. "Who do you think you are? You come into our school thinking you're something special?" "I never said I was special," Zara interrupted, finding her voice. "I just want to go to school like everyone else. Why is that so threatening to you?" Madison's face reddened. "You think I'm threatened by you? That's hilarious." "Then why can't you just leave me alone?" Zara asked, loud enough for the gathering crowd to hear. "Because people like you need to learn your place," Madison hissed. "And what place is that?" "Exactly," came Elijah's voice as he pushed through the crowd to stand beside Zara. The confrontation at Zara's locker marked a shift. Word spread through the school about how the new girl had stood up to Madison Wells. More importantly, students began noticing how Madison and her friends treated Zara and Elijah, the daily microaggressions, the not-so-subtle racism, the deliberate exclusion. Jessica from physics class started sitting with Zara and Elijah at lunch. Then came Miguel from Spanish class and Aiden from the debate team. Slowly, a small group formed, students who had watched silently before but now chose to stand with the newcomers. In class, when Brandon made a comment about Elijah being naturally athletic, Jessica immediately called him out. Or maybe he studies and practices hard, just like anyone else would have to. When Madison accidentally called Zara by the wrong name for the 5th time, Miguel corrected her. Her name is Zara. It's not that hard to remember. Elijah found his voice in unexpected ways. During a class discussion about civil rights, when the teacher asked for volunteers to present on modern racism, Elijah raised his hand. "I can speak to that," he said quietly. Not from a textbook, but from experience. The classroom fell silent as he detailed the subtle and not-so-subtle ways racism had shaped his life. From being followed in stores to having teachers express surprise at his academic achievements. The problem isn't just the people who actively hate, he concluded. It's also the people who see it happening and say nothing. Zara, meanwhile, channeled her experiences into writing, submitting a powerful essay to the school newspaper about belonging and identity. The editor, initially hesitant, ultimately published it as the lead article. By mid-semester, Zara and Elijah had become more than just survivors. They were leaders. Zara started a student support group for newcomers to the school, creating the welcome she never received. Elijah joined the student council, advocating for more inclusive school events and a revised code of conduct that specifically addressed racial harassment. Madison and Brandon found themselves increasingly isolated as more students recognized and rejected their behavior. When Madison attempted to exclude Zara from planning the winter formal, the committee voted unanimously to keep her on board. "Things don't change because bullies suddenly become nice," Zara told Elijah as they walked home one afternoon. "They change because enough people decide not to be bystanders anymore." Elijah nodded. "My mom always says that courage is contagious. Once one person stands up, it's easier for the second person and then the third." "Do you think we made a difference?" Zara asked. Elijah gestured back toward the school, where Jessica was waiting to discuss their upcoming cultural diversity initiative. "I think we're just getting started. The Spring Awards Assembly serves as a powerful symbolic setting for this concluding chapter. Spring itself represents renewal and growth, mirroring the social rebirth that has occurred at Ridgeway under Zara and Elijah's influence. The formal recognition through the Student Leadership Award validates their struggle and resilience in a public forum. The very same space where they were once meant to feel like outsiders now becomes the stage for their celebration. Principle. Torres's introduction of the award carries particular weight. By establishing it as the first Student Leadership Award, the administration acknowledges that something unprecedented has occurred at Ridgeway. The recognition isn't merely personal, but institutional. The school itself has been transformed by their presence. The principal's words about differences being strengths rather than weaknesses directly counters the narrative that Madison, Brandon, and their followers had tried to establish earlier in the story. The thunderous applause, Zara, and Elijah receive signifies a complete reversal of their initial reception at the school, where once they walked through silent hallways that erupted into whispers after they passed, they now stand before an audience that openly celebrates them. This shift represents more than just personal popularity. It indicates a fundamental change in the school's cultural values. The brief moment of eye contact between Zara and Madison serves as a subtle but significant resolution to their conflict. Madison's small, almost imperceptible nod is deliberately understated. It would be unrealistic for her character to undergo a complete transformation or offer a grand apology. Instead, this minimal gesture suggests the beginning of self-awareness and perhaps regret, without compromising the authenticity of her character. It indicates that even the most resistant elements of the old social order have been affected by the changes Zara and Elijah initiated. The post-ceremony interactions with their parents create a powerful narrative bookend. We began with parental concerns and conventional wisdom. Zara's father telling her to keep her head down and stay focused, while Elijah's mother worried about him starting at a new school. Now we see these same parents acknowledging that their children found strength by directly confronting their challenges rather than avoiding them. This represents not just the students' growth, but also an evolution in their parents' understanding of how to navigate racial hostility. Marcus Johnson's line, "Instead, you lifted everyone else's up," is particularly significant as it captures the core message of the story, that true empowerment comes not from individual advancement alone, but from creating community-wide elevation. Zara didn't simply succeed at Ridgeway. She transformed it, making it a better place for everyone, including future newcomers who might have otherwise faced the same treatment she initially encountered. The image of Elijah's mother wiping tears from her eyes conveys the emotional weight that parents of color carry when sending their children into potentially hostile environments. Her relief and pride represent the resolution of tensions that likely began long before the first scene of our story, years of preparing her son for a world that might judge him unfairly. Her statement, "I should have known you'd make it your own," acknowledges Elijah's agency and strength in a way that honors his individual character beyond his identity as a black student facing racism. The final scene on the steps of Ridgeway High creates a powerful visual that contrasts with their earlier experiences. Where once they hurried through hallways with heads down, they now stand elevated, looking out at the school from a position of confidence and accomplishment. The school building itself, once a site of alienation and hostility, has been reclaimed as a space where they rightfully belong. Zara's reflection on the irony of their situation. They thought they could make us feel like we didn't belong here. But in trying to push us out, they gave us the exact purpose we needed to stay. Highlights an important truth about resilience and resistance. Their oppression became the catalyst for their empowerment, not because suffering is inherently ennobling, but because it provided a clear purpose around which they could organize their response. This represents a mature understanding that obstacles can sometimes clarify our path rather than simply blocking it. The waiting group of friends in the parking lot serves as visual evidence of the community they've built, a stark contrast to their initial isolation. This group represents the bystanders who found their courage through Zara and Elijah's example, fulfilling the earlier observation that courage is contagious. The formation of this diverse friend group embodies the concrete social change that has occurred beyond abstract policy reforms. Elijah's final observation that what they saw as our weakness, being different, would become our greatest strength, articulates the fundamental reversal at the heart of the story. It's not just that they overcame prejudice, they succeeded precisely because of the perspectives and experiences that their differences afforded them. Their outsider status gave them the clarity to see problems that had become normalized within Ridgeway's culture. The toast to being unstoppable with their awards creates a triumphant final image, while Elijah's addition of together emphasizes that their strength came not just from individual perseverance, but from mutual support and community building. The physical gesture of bumping their awards together transforms these symbols of individual achievement into a representation of collective power. This concluding chapter doesn't present a utopian resolution where all prejudice has been magically erased. Madison's minimal nod falls short of a full reconciliation, and we can assume that challenges remain. What has changed is the power dynamic. Zara and Elijah are no longer powerless targets, but recognized leaders who have built systems of support that will outlast their time at Ridgeway. This outcome teaches several important lessons about confronting racism and bullying. First, it shows that meaningful change requires more than individual resilience. It needs community action and institutional support. Second, it illustrates that the most effective response to exclusion is often to build new, more inclusive spaces, rather than simply seeking acceptance from those who initially rejected you. Third, it demonstrates that transforming a hostile environment often requires making the invisible visible, naming the problems, speaking uncomfortable truths, and refusing to normalize harmful behaviors. The full-circle journey from newcomers to inspiration suggests that identities are not fixed but constantly evolving through our choices and actions. Zara and Elijah were initially defined by others based on superficial characteristics, but by the story's end, they've taken control of their own narratives and how they're perceived within their community. This final chapter also challenges conventional wisdom about dealing with prejudice. The traditional advice to keep your head down and not make waves is explicitly rejected in favor of assertive action and community organizing. The story acknowledges the real risks in confronting entrenched power structures, but ultimately argues that silence and compliance rarely lead to meaningful change. The language of transformation runs throughout this closing chapter, from the IA first award to the beginning of understanding from Madison to the friends waiting for what comes next. These word choices emphasize that the story we've witnessed is not an endpoint, but part of an ongoing process of growth and change, both for the characters and for Ridgeway High as an institution. In presenting this resolution, the narrative avoids two common pitfalls. It neither suggests that racism can be easily solved through simple understanding, nor does it present a defeatist view where nothing can ever improve. Instead, it offers a realistic middle ground where persistent collaborative effort can create meaningful, if imperfect, progress. The final image of solidarity, two awards bumping together, also serves as a reminder that representation matters. The visible recognition of Zara and Elijah's contributions creates a template for younger students to follow, ensuring that the changes they've initiated have the potential to outlast their time at Ridgeway. Their story has become part of the school's institutional memory, changing how future students might understand their own potential to affect change. Ultimately, Full Circle completes the narrative arc while simultaneously suggesting new beginnings. Zara and Elijah have transformed from victims to victors, not by defeating their tormentors, but by creating something stronger and more enduring than the prejudice they faced. The script ends not with closure, but with opening, a new chapter for Ridgeway High and for all who pass through its doors in the future.